Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 121 of the Runnin The Paint Podcast. I'm Miles here with Nick. Nick, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, man. Round two action is heating up. A lot of away winners. Down 2-0, Celtics, Cavs. What is going on?
A very weird playoffs that no one could have predicted. I don't know if I know on NBA.com there is like the bracket challenge where if you get like a perfect bracket, you win tickets to the finals or the draft. I don't think that it's possible for anyone to have a perfect bracket still at this point.
Do you have to pick the right amount of games each series finishes in as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no way. There's no way. I'd be shocked if anyone has gotten it perfectly so far.
Yeah.
It's been incredible, this round two action so far. We'll give an update on all four of the round two series so far now that we are officially two games into each of those series. But first things first, PERTL, baby. Let's see if we can get another
PERTL.
good score here in PERTL. I'll guess a player for us to start off with. I'll go with someone that we kind of talked about a little during the pre-pod lobby. Rui Hachimura.
Yes,
We'll go to
sir.
Lakers. Let's see if this gets us anywhere. And it kind of does. If we have someone that is going to be in the Eastern Conference, someone who is most likely a center who is in their 30s and has a lower jersey number than 28, 27, or 26. So let's see what we can get, man.
How about Tristan Thompson?
Tristan Thompson. Ooh,
I don't
not
know.
only thing against Tristan is he's not going to be like 6'11.
Right. Because
Is
within 3 inches, you would get the little indicator.
correct. Yeah, if it was 6'9" or 6'10", it'd be a yellow box around there.
Okay, gotcha.
I like that's not a bad guess though.
An older five man.
We could go
What about
Nicole.
Valanciunas on the Wizards?
Now he's on the Kings
Oh,
because
that's right.
of that trade. Yeah, I mean he's been going everywhere. Maybe Vucevic.
Oh, yeah.
We go Vuce
Still in
from the.
Chi-Town.
Let's see.
All right, we were right. He's
Okay,
taller
so
than
not
6'10", younger than 34, and has a higher jersey number than 9. Not in
yeah
the Central, so we're looking at what no, the
yeah
Pacific.
southeast and
Yeah,
northeast or Atlantic or I don't even remember. I think it's Atlantic and southeast, something like that.
Atlantic and Southeast. That's right.
And let's see the ages because of the yellow bubble. So this will be between ages 30 and 31. So this guy is probably right in the smack dab middle of their prime. And again, not in the central division.
Remember we got Giannis last time.
I do remember we got Giannis. He would have been a prime candidate for this one.
What about his counterpart, Brooke Lopez? But he's
Brooke Lopez. No, because central division.
Central.
Let's see.
Southeast has the
Dang,
Magic, the
I was
Heat,
just
the
thinking of a player.
Hornets.
I was just thinking of a player. Now I do not remember who I was thinking of.
Don't the Hornets have like a vet? Like, why is Taj Gibson still in the?
Taj Gibson, but he's like number 67 or something
Okay,
weird like that.
this is a tough one.
Oh, the name I was thinking of was Joel Embiid, but
Oh yeah,
this is the thing that doesn't make sense about Pirtle with this position thing is this guy going to be a forward slash center now? Because why are both of them only yellow? Like
right. That's a good point. I mean, why is Al Horford not fit? Why would we said Al Horford?
Al Horford. Let's see. Al Horford is number 42.
Okay, that's right.
We're all right. We're eliminating some options. I think we're getting closer by just
You want to guess
eliminating.
Embiid?
Embiid, yeah, we could go with him. I think he's either 31 or 32.
He's probably a center in here though. Oh
Yes, it
wow,
was. Trust the process, or maybe not.
Embiid in 3 ain't bad though.
Embiid, yeah, I'll take it. Getting from Rui Hachimura to Joel Embiid. I think is pretty. That's not bad. I'll take it. I'll take it. Of
Solid.
course, he infamously has never made it past the second round, and he's not even in the playoffs this year after a disastrous year. But let's talk about the second round series so far. And you mentioned at the top, man, the top two seeds in the Eastern Conference, both down 0-2 in their series. First, let's start off with New York versus Boston after after 2 games in Boston, it's kind of been the same scenario that's happened in both games where the Celtics gain a 20-point lead in the 3rd quarter only to miss a bunch of threes in the 4th quarter and blow the game. Nick, what to you has been the biggest reason that New York has been able to come back, in both of these games? Is it the three-point shooting for Boston or something else?
Well, I mean, I do think that they're, like Joe Mazzola says, getting good shots. They're taking good shots and they're getting open looks. They're not all good shots. They're taking some bad shots. Like there's a screenshot with 3 minutes left when, the team hasn't gotten a bucket within the last 5 minutes of game time, and they only scored one field goal in the last 8 minutes of game time. And so, with 3 minutes left, you see Tatum take an open three, but there's nobody guarding the rim, and the layup is wide open as well. So, like,
Yeah, it was something like Al Horford was open and Brunson fell. So Horford was open for a layup and Tatum instead shot a 3 to try and get himself going. I mean, look, the numbers are historically bad for Boston's three-point shooting. They're 25 for 100 from 3 in 2 games. And when you look at the individual three-point shooting, like this isn't just one guy going cold from 3. There's not even like a single saving grace. Jalen Brown is 3 for 17 from 3. Derek White is 8 for 27. Tatum 5 for 20. Al Horford 1 for 10. Pritchard is their best three-point shooter in this series, and he's only 5 for 14, below league average. Like, this is just horrendous three-point shooting by a historic three-point shooting team, and it's obviously happening at the wrong time.
well, is it happening while they're getting up by 20 during these leads, or are they shooting better during those runs? Because it seems like what's happening here during these late games is like they're conflicted and it causes them to play more tense, and like they're taking and getting the same shots. They're just not making them as high as a percentage because they're conflicted. And here's the conflict. It's like you're going against the way you've played basketball for 30 plus years. Like your scheme is to, take 53s a night, but you're taking wide open ones when the layup is also wide open. So you're thinking like it's just you're thinking, and that conflicts with making.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of credit should go to the New York Knicks defense for forcing the Celtics to make these decisions and it not working through these first 2 games. I talked about it on the recap last night. What happened in game 2 was just incredible because the Celtics, it looked like they had, bounced back. I mean, they had put on a defensive clinic throughout the entire game, had an 84 to 68 lead in the 4th quarter after I believe Pritchard buried a back-breaking 3, and you're like, "Man, even the Celtics, when they're missing these threes, are getting second chance opportunities, and they're just knocking shots back in." But the Celtics, after the Pritchard 3 with 8:40 remaining, made 1 field goal the rest of the game, and it was that Tatum dunk, to give them the lead. But even before that make, they all 4 of the makes they had in the 4th quarter were off of an offensive rebound or a New York Knicks turnover. So the Boston Celtics in the half court only made
Scoreless.
1 shot basically. They didn't make a shot.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And I think a lot of credit goes to the Knicks defense for playing, as advertised coming into the season with Bridges, Anunoby, and Josh Hart all playing fantastic. But then, of course, I mean, it's a make or miss league a lot of the time. If you're the Celtics, you've barely lost 2 of these home games, and you've had, you know, the worst 2-game shooting stretch in the history of basketball.
Yeah, 25 for 100 is not great, and you'd think, it might be time to change a scheme up, but I guarantee they're going to shoot 43s on Saturday afternoon in the Garden.
Yeah, because that's how they've played the last few seasons, and they won a championship last year doing it. And, like you kind of mentioned, they were still getting open shots that they've hit all year. Of course, taking some bad ones occasionally, but for the most part, getting shots that they've knocked in all year. And they just haven't fallen through.
So,
What is
Kai,
impressive? Yeah, here, go ahead, Nick.
how did Brunson get to the line with 12 seconds left? Because after Tatum made that only field goal in the half court for them, where he just sprinted down the full length of the court and dunked it, they had a 1 point lead, and there was, I think the shot clock was either off or there was just a small differential. And then all of a sudden I look back and Brunson's at the line with 12 seconds left. And then I don't think Mizzou, did he burn his last time out after The free throws?
Nope. That's
Yeah,
another thing.
that's what.
That's another thing we have to talk about. During this run where the Celtics miss, I believe 13 or 14 shots in a row, Joe Mazzulla didn't call a single timeout during this entire run. He did not burn a timeout um, until, let's see, when did he use that timeout? With 24 seconds to go when Brunson missed a three and it went out of bounds. So there was a stoppage of play. I guarantee you, if his team grabbed the rebound, they would have just brought it up the floor, just like they did at the final play after the Brunson free throws. But the way Brunson got to the line is they ran a pick and roll with him and Josh Hart to try to get Horford on him. And Brunson kind of spun around Drew Holiday, and Holiday went for the steal and caught, his hip as he shot the ball. So there was the foul there. And that's how he got to the line. But the Joel Mazzulla philosophy, man, it's been like this, ever since he became their head coach back in 2022. You know, you guys need to get yourselves out of this situation. I'm not going to just burn a timeout to get you guys out of this situation. He's done this for, since he's been there. And this is a game where it cost them. The momentum from the Knicks was never broken
Right.
by him for calling a timeout. And to me, I think it is bad coaching to not use a timeout when you're in dead water. I mean, you're missing 14 shots in a row while Mikal Bridges is having a crazy fourth quarter and on fire. You didn't stop the momentum at all.
Yeah, especially like down when you blow the lead and now you're down one with the ball and 12 seconds and you haven't made a field goal for 8 minutes. You missed your last 14. Yeah, you're gonna want to like make sure you get the look you want at least.
Yeah, and I mean, heck, we kind of already knew what was going to happen the final play offensively with Tatum having the ball, probably in an ISO situation. So maybe that's why they didn't call a timeout, because why would we use a timeout to, run something that we already know, we're going to
I
run.
don't
And
know.
New York had Brunson in the game defensively,
That's true.
trying to keep him in the game. But Tatum didn't even try to get Brunson on him. He got Mitchell Robinson on him. And instead of, isolating there, he dribbled into the corner against OG Anunoby, and then Mikal came over, another steal. I mean, the way Mikal Bridges has played defensively is exactly why New York traded all their first round picks for the next few years to get him. And during the year, during the regular season, we didn't really see the full vision because he just did played subpar on that end of the floor. But in the playoffs so far, it's paying off.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to watch how the Knicks have been squeaking these games out. Like I think they've got 5 road games in the playoffs, all decided by 3 or less points. Between their 3 wins in Detroit and now back-to-back small wins in Boston. It just feels like, if they can get it to a close game in the fourth quarter, then they have an advantage in Jalen Brunson, and now they have the pieces on the other end to like get those stops as well.
Yeah, for sure. They're looking like a complete top 5, 6, 7 rotation there with Mitchell Robinson playing well. Besides, the free throw shooting, but even that's another thing we could talk about that too. The Hacker Robinson, he's obviously struggled mightily from the free throw line, but I feel like that was also kind of playing into the hands of the Knicks, anyways, because in the fourth quarter when Robinson was in the game, the Celtics used a couple of their team fouls on Mitchell Robinson to get into the Haka Robinson situation. And then when they got to the 15th foul, Thibodeau took Robinson out of the game. And in the game are 5 great free throw shooters. And every time they were fouled, they got to the free throw line because the Celtics had already used all their team fouls,
Yeah.
for that. When Robinson was having a great impact as well. He was a plus 19 in game 2.
And we talked about in game one where Cornette fouled, he wasted all his fouls, and then Porzingis goes to the locker room, and now you're really shallow. Another thing is, Thibodeau plays those guys 40 minutes a night. How much do you want them stopping the game extra to give those guys a blow?
That's an underrated part of that strategy too, because you're right. In a playoff game where you're in a tight atmosphere and your guys are all playing 37 to 40 minutes per game, taking a little rest, having these little intermissions of play here to kind of catch your breath a little bit, it's very useful. And it's definitely helped the Knicks out so far this series. And I think we mentioned Porzingis briefly, or you did. I think that's something we should talk about. I mean, he's dealing with this illness that had him playing not so well in game one, came off the bench, was very limited in game two. If Porzingis is not at, his normal strength, do you think the Celtics have enough to come back in this series? Of course, now they have to win 4 of the next 5 games.
That's a good question. I don't know. It depends how Tatum and Brown play, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's tough.
it's very tough if he's not there. I mean, now, of course, this series shifts to New York and Madison Square Garden for games 3 and 4, where I cannot wait to hear the atmosphere in game 3. That is going to be one of the loudest places, loudest Knick games ever in that building. But the interesting thing is, with both of these teams, the Knicks and Celtics are kind of better on the road than they are at home, at least in the last couple of years. So I mentioned in the recap, New York cannot be satisfied, even though they have a 2-0 lead, winning both the games in Boston, because Celtics are definitely talented enough to, even win 4 straight, do a reverse sweep, and, get back in this thing very quickly. So Knicks are going to have to take advantage.
Yeah, I remember just a couple years ago, Boston, I think the year before they won their championship, couldn't get a win on their home court in the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, definitely not out of it, with or without KP. There's my answer, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, is the key to Boston getting a few wins and getting back into the series? Does it really just come down to them knocking down some more threes and not shooting 25%? Like,
I
is it
think that's a
that
good place
simple?
to I mean, it's a good place to start, and considering the fact they lost by a combined, what, 3 points or 2?
3, 4 points. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they're obviously gonna need to get back, back to their, even just not 25% shooting
I
from
think
three.
30% would be alright.
Yeah, I mean, you think in this game, if they hit 2 or 3 more threes, same thing in game 1, they could have a 2-0 lead in this series. But instead, New York pulls it out. Got to give a lot of credit, of course, to the 3 front court guys, as we mentioned, with Anunoby, Harden, and Bridges defensively. But Town stepped up big in game 2. Jalen Brunson didn't shoot the best in game 2, but still hit some big shots and the go-ahead free throws at the end of the game. So important, a very good team performance in game 2. Brunson was obviously enormous in game 1, and now things will get interesting. The defending champs on the ropes, facing some adversity, a lot earlier than probably a lot of us thought they would. I mean, we can go back to our series predictions. You and I both had the Celtics in 5. We both said that we would be shocked if this went further than Celtics in 5. And the Knicks are playing a lot better than we thought they would in this series.
Yeah, I'm shocked, so
Yeah, that's all I could say. Like, I'm shocked. I did not see this being a potential, situation, but here we are. Similar situation to the other Eastern Conference series, the 1-4 matchup. Pacers, Cavs, the Cavaliers, after that historic collapse in game 2 at home. They're now down 2-0, heading to Indianapolis for games 3 and 4. Game 3 is tonight from Indiana. Different in the 2 series, of course, with the Celtics being down 0-2. Celtics are down 0-2, basically healthy with all their guys playing. Cavaliers have not, been healthy. They've had guys out of the lineup the last couple games. Nick, where do you think we should start with this series, moving to game 3?
I mean, I do think it comes down to health. The guys, the Cavs need to get their butts out there and play. Like, I know, like Garland is hurt, and if you can't play, then you can't play. But you're gonna be watching soon, so if you can give it a go, then now's the time.
Yeah, exactly. For Garland, Mobley, and Hunter, I mean, I'm very sure. I mean, look, I want to address this real quickly. There's been a lot of talk, from Stephen A. Smith on TV, from media, from fans across the board, questioning the integrity of whether or not these guys actually want to play, which I think is just absolutely
Well,
ridiculous.
yeah, it's just for attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I mean, and not even just because we're Cavs fans. This is across the board. Like, if it's, Steph Curry will get to with the Warriors series or any other player who may be injured. These guys have worked their entire lives and careers to,
Yeah,
work together to try and win a championship. You think they want to be on the bench in these types of games? No. So if these guys can't play, it's because their injuries are that bad enough to where they can't play. But I do think that we will see one or two of these guys return for game 3. At least you would hope so. I mean, because another part of that with guys not playing, if guys come back, and they're at 50%, 60% because they're injured already, that could end up making it worse. That could end up hurting the team
right.
even worse, especially against this Indiana Pacers team who has proven that you cannot make mistakes against this team. You have to have the foot speed and the stamina to fight with them for a full 48 minutes. If Darius Garland is and Evan Mobley and DeAndre Hunter are not able to sustain, a lot of minutes, then it really doesn't help that much anyways. You can go back to even last year in the Knicks Pacers series where OG Anunoby got hurt in their second round series in game 2, I believe, something like that. Came back in game 7, you know, a lot of people were trying to, question the same thing. Was OG really that hurt? He comes out in the first 4 or 5 minutes. He scores a couple baskets, I believe, but didn't look the same defensively. And Indiana got off to a historic shooting first half. And it's like, okay, OG probably shouldn't have played. So there's two sides to the coin. And I'm not sure if all fans really think of it that way. But in regards to this series, Indiana has played incredible in these first 2 games. I think they have been the best team in the playoffs consistently. Um, and yeah, I can't really say enough about how amazing they have looked on both sides of the floor in this series. Besides the first quarter of game 2 of this series, they've looked nearly flawless.
Yeah. Excuse me. I just think that either Garland or Mobley needs to be out there. If one of those guys are out there, I think the Cavs um feel much better about their chances because I don't know, like you've given up 120 to Indy both times. Haven't really been able to slow them down on that end. So you're just gonna need to find some more options, a few more options, I think, on the offensive end because Donovan is playing like an MVP. I mean, he's averaging 40, like 7 assists and 5 rebounds a night on some really, I mean, only he hasn't even been lighting it up for three. Like
His jumper's been off. His jumper's kind of disappeared, yet he's still playing superhuman in these
but
games because he's just attacking the rim.
yeah, I think he hasn't been able to shoot it because he's doing everything. So if you get the ball in Garland's hand for at least a couple possessions, just take the pressure off him, get Mobley involved in a pick and roll. I think Donovan is still as productive as he has been because you're going to need him to be, and he's going to have those usage numbers that he has in the first 2 games. But you might get him a couple more catch and shoot opportunities, and he might be less fatigued towards the end of the game, and maybe not miss 1 or 2 free throws every time down the stretch.
Yeah, because that's part of it. I mean, we talked about it in the recap. I mean, he had an incredible game too. He had 48 points, but he did miss 4 free throws. He's kind of struggled with his free throw shooting in the playoffs this year, but I think a lot of it is that usage. And you're not going to always make all your free throws, especially if you're handling the ball and attacking the way he is, relentlessly going at these big guys and finishing. I mean, some of the finishes that he's had in these 2 games have been absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's played absolutely superhuman in these first 2 games as far as like attacking the rim goes. I think Garland being back would help to take some pressure off the ball, and you're not asking Max Strus to be a secondary ball handler all the time because he was really like their second most reliable player, to run a pick and roll in this game, especially since Ty Jerome has had a couple of rough games in this series. That would also help. I mean, that's the thing. The Cavs are down 2 games to none in this series with their second, third, and you say fifth best players all injured, and their sixth best player was basically out too because he had a 1 for 14 game too. I think if they could just summon some regular performances from some of these guys and some of them to come back, I'm feeling pretty good about their chances to come back, but Indiana has also played so well. It's hard to see them really letting up. Um,
Everyone's
you know,
saying 3 of the 5 best or 3 of the 6 best. Where are we ranking these guys? Because I feel like Ty Jerome has to be 8 because Max Strus is 7, Hunter's 6. Or well, am I
I
off
mean, I
one?
I think it's easy to say that Jerome is lower than that now because of the back-to-back games that he's had, but with the season that Jerome had off the I mean, he was 3rd and 6th man of the year. I think that
Yeah.
he is definitely a starter. That's another thing. There were people saying that he's lost money from he hasn't lost money. He's had an incredible season. He's definitely gonna get paid from the work that he's done, but I guess that's just from my overall perspective. I mean, but either way you put it, you've got 4 of your top 7 or top 8
Yeah.
players basically being no shows, and you've been in these games in the positions to win. I mean, in game 1, they had a brutal start. It took them a while to adjust to the Indiana Pacers pace of the game because it's different than any other team in the league. But and at that case, I mean, they struggled, made a run. They had the lead going into the fourth quarter before Turner hit the three at the end of the quarter. And then in game 2, obviously, they had two 20-point leads, one in the first half, one in the third quarter. Um, and obviously up 7 with 40 seconds to go before blowing it. So they've been in great position with a lot of guys struggling and obviously a lot of guys out. So we'll see if, maybe them going on the road and getting some guys back could maybe help them out a little bit because this Cavs team was a good road team, during the regular season, but it's just been kind of difficult, obviously, with that game, blowing that game, and just now obviously down 0-2 going on the road. It's an uphill climb for sure. Not a whole lot of teams ever come back from that type of deficit, especially going on the road. But I mean, if there are two teams that could do it, it is probably the Cavs and Celtics. So we'll see. We'll see if we can do it.
Who do you think's more likely?
I mean, obviously Boston because they are healthy. That's more of a sure thing. I mean, it's kind of a two-sided thing. I think that the Celtics being down 0-2 is worse than the Cavs being down 0-2 because they're all healthy. But then on the other side, they're also more likely to come back in the series because they're healthy. And, I think that what they need to figure out is much more manageable than the Cavaliers, which is just their three-point shooting, while the Cavs have playing a full 48 minutes with healthy guys. So.
Yeah,
But
true.
either way, it's just been incredible theater in the Eastern Conference. I mean, despite both of these series being 0-2, these have been the two most competitive series for sure in this second round.
Yeah, the
But
two series out west aren't too bad though either.
not too bad themselves. Let's head over to the Western Conference. Nick, which series do you want to start with here in the West?
Let's start with the game that just wrapped up tonight. We're just past midnight on what's today now? Friday morning.
Yeah, Friday
So
morning.
the Wolves curb stomped the Warriors tonight. They had a 13-point lead right from the tip, and they led wire to wire. Warriors had it down to 7 in the third quarter after Kaminga had a nice little rise up vertical lob, or not lob, but just rise up dunk. And Buddy Hield again from the corner, knocked down another big time three, cut it to 7. Warriors are all hype. And um, well, actually, Ant Man, he went to the locker room in the second quarter, messed up his ankle, and then came back out like Superman in the third quarter. And after the Warriors got it close, the Wolves were able to stretch it back out.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first place that we need to start with this series is, of course, the Steph Curry injury. Because we touched on it briefly after game 1, but we really didn't talk about the implications that it could have on this series. And you could tell right from the jump that the Warriors really didn't know what to do to start the game. Again, they're down 13-0, and they only had like 5 points with
With
what, like
4:44 left on the first quarter clock. Yeah.
yeah, with both buckets by Jimmy Butler, who, I think he's going to need to be more aggressive looking to shoot the basketball than he normally is. And I think, especially in this game as well, I mean, he had 17 points. He was 6 for 13 from the field. But I think a lot of those shots came at the end of the shot clock. They were kind of grenades at the end.
Yeah.
And he only had 5 free throw attempts. I think they're going to need him to play a lot better if they're going to have any chance in this series without Steph Curry. Because if he's not going to play like playoff Jimmy, then I just don't think that they don't have the scoring punch to really have the ability to produce enough points.
Well, did you see after they cut it to 7 and then the Wolves immediately ran it back up to 12 and Kerr burned a timeout? It looked like the adjustment for them on that side of the ball, because they put Cam Spencer into the game at that point too, was to just get Jimmy a matchup and try and let him create. And they couldn't even get to that. without problems because they ended up drawing Jimmy drawed a foul on DiVincenzo on like the second or third time they tried to get to it. But even just
Mhm.
getting to that adjustment seemed like a real problem for them to cut it from 12 to, back where they were trying to get it to manageable. And Jimmy is going to have to take like 20 shots if Steph's going to be out.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of credit goes to the Minnesota defense because, I mean, that's, obviously the first thing you look at with their game one loss was their horrible 3-point shooting and Anthony Edwards' bad first half. But you can also look to the defensive intensity and the lack of the pressure that they played to start game one. And they had that in this game. Of course, it's way easier when there's no Steph Curry out there running around. I mean, you could tell in this game, Steve Kerr was throwing out some random lineups. I mean, he played 14 players in the first half of this game. He played his whole roster besides Curry in the first half of this game. First time in postseason history that's ever happened. You could tell that he was just searching for some sort of combination that would work. And he
Yeah.
kind of found it a
Oh,
little
I was
bit.
going to say there was nothing.
He found it a little bit to start the second half, a
Yeah.
little bit, but besides that, no, not really. I mean, you take a look across the board. I mean, I think if there's any, positives to take from this game, it's that Jonathan Kuminga finally looked comfortable on the offensive and he had 18 points in this game. Made his first 8 shots. So he looked very comfortable out there, the jump shots, attacking the rim. Um, you know, I mean, there really weren't many other positives.
That's what I'm saying.
Trace Jackson Davis was pretty good. He had 15 points and 6 rebounds in 20 minutes. I think maybe he's someone that you could look to start in game 3 because they went with Quentin Post and didn't work. They didn't score with him out on the floor. That's crazy. He played the first 3 minutes, didn't check back in the game after starting. So it was good to see Trace Jackson Davis have a good game because he had a good rookie year. Really haven't heard much from him this year, but he's someone that I think could have an impact in this series because as far as he's probably the Warriors' best combination at the center position when it comes to physicality, athleticism, and just youth. So if they could try to instill some playing time into him, maybe he starts game 3, like I said. Because again, I mean, besides the start of the second half, Warriors didn't have that many answers for the Timberwolves, who were also lights out from 3. I mean, we mentioned it's a make or miss league. They were awful in game 1. They had what, 5 players make at least 2 threes. That's going to help your chances.
Yeah, certainly. I don't know. With the Warriors, it just seems like they don't have enough consistent pieces. I think TJD had a good game, and Kaminga both could be X factors in a close game. But it just seemed like every time the Warriors had a shot to cut it from like 17 to 14, they would miss the three and then give up a wide open layup on the other end, and um, they never were able to like string together enough minutes to get themselves back into the game. And from what I saw, it was because they just had a lot of guys missing open shots.
Yeah, Moses Moody missed a
Yep.
lot of shots. I mean, he had some grenades that he had to throw up there too. Pajemski was 1 for 4 from 3. Draymond Green, he's going to be iffy, of course. But yeah, I mean, the Warriors just really couldn't get that many quality looks off
Right.
against this Timberwolves defense, and I'm curious to see how they'll find a way going forward because we saw them in the first round against the Houston Rockets when kind of a similar situation. They're without Jimmy Butler. He leaves in game 2. They kind of get blitzed because Steve Kerr's just trying to find combinations that'll work without, you know, one of his all-star players. Back in this scenario, once again, here in round 2, going home, they got the split on the road, which is, of course, super important as the lower seed. So now it's just going to be, can you go home and get, you know, one of your role players to step up and get a game? Because at this point, I think the goal for Golden State with Curry out for the next week, I think that would put him to maybe trying and returning for game 5 of this series is to just try and win one of the home games and go back to Minnesota with the 2-2 split. I think that's probably your best case scenario with no Curry.
Yeah. I was listening to the broadcast, and I think Van Gundy was saying they just got to win one of the next three, including the game that was happening tonight. Because if you go 2-2, then you get 3 days off between game 5 and 6, I believe. So,
Yeah, I'll
or
take.
games 4 and 5. They just have to make it to that. If they can get 2-2 with a couple of days off and get Steph back and just make it a 3 game series, I think they can win 2 out of 3 with Steph in the lineup, or at least that makes them feel a lot better than
Yeah,
being down 3-1.
yeah, for sure. Especially because we saw. I mean, this team is comfortable with having a potential game seven on the road. They won game seven in Houston. They've been in plenty of battles before. I mean, I think something else with this game too, because something that was also curious with Steve Kerr, he was throwing out all these different lineups. But if I'm not mistaken, I saw this on Twitter. I'm going to actually see if this was real or not. When the Warriors cut the lead down to 7, um, and then the Timberwolves scored back-to-back buckets. It went back to 12. Then the Warriors call a timeout. Then they basically put in a whole new lineup. They took out the lineup that was doing well and then subbed in a whole different lineup. I wonder if that also had something to do with kind of just the fatigue of the Warriors, because something as well, and we'll probably get into this with the Denver game too, is that the Warriors have been playing every other day since game 3 of the Houston series, which was obviously a physically draining series for a lot of these guys. Even the veterans were talking about how the Rocket series was one of the most, tough series that they've ever had to go through in their career. And it's just rolled right on in this series. You wonder if Steve Kerr would kind of just wanted to limit his guys' minutes as well to try to make sure that they're good. And this is kind of like, all right, we'll punt this game. We already got the split. Let's try to get refreshed and we'll just reset for game 3.
Yeah, weird timing to do that when you cut it to 7, though.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that as well. But either way, Minnesota, huge win. Haven't really talked a lot about what they did well, but I mean, they just played very well defensively. Just came out with a lot more energy than in game 1, and then again they knocked down a bunch of shots. I mean, DiVincenzo, Reed, and Alexander Walker were all huge in this game. I mean, those 3 bench guys, coming into the year, that was seen to be a very scary top 3 of the bench. Hasn't been that consistent, throughout the year, but in this game, 20 points for Alexander Walker, 11 for Reed, 9 for DiVincenzo. Both of those guys hit 3 threes. Nah hit 4 threes. And it's so important for those guys to be knocking down threes to open up the floor for, Edwards and Randall, who both had pretty good games. So shout out to
Yeah,
both.
those two top guys are playing real well, and anything, well, not anything you get from their role players, but if they can get DiVincenzo really cooking like he has in the past, then that'll be huge for them because Nas and Alexander Walker have been good in the playoffs so far, and if DiVincenzo kind of matches that level, Rudy stays a threat in his role, then it's a scary like 6 man rotation you got right there.
Absolutely. So this series tied up at 1 game apiece as the series will now shift to San Francisco. Final series in the Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets Oklahoma City series, which is also tied up at 1 game apiece after a couple very different results. In game 1, we have the Thunder blowing their late fourth quarter lead. Aaron Gordon hitting the game winning 3 there. Crazy finish to game 1. And then in game 2, you have the Thunder just winning. It wasn't even close. A 43-point victory against Denver. Man, it was tough on the recap last night. I mean, there wasn't much to break down. I mean, the Thunder came to play. The Nuggets just threw up an egg.
Yeah, I think the halftime score was like 87-56 or something like that.
Yeah,
That's insane. Just to put up back-to-back 45, 42 point quarters on doesn't even matter who you're playing against in the NBA playoffs. That's pretty remarkable. Um yeah, I don't know who's really got the upper hand right now in this series because well, I guess it would be OKC because you kind of blow a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter on your home court. You're thinking, all right, we're not going to do that again. We can take care of the things that we didn't do that night and keep and control the rest of the series. And then you go out and show that with a huge 30-point first half domination and 2 nights later. So I don't know. OKC, or I'm sorry, Denver rather is going to have to figure out probably how to slow them down.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are two ways you can look at it. I think, obviously OKC getting this huge win after outplaying Denver for most of game one, it appeared until, late in the fourth quarter. Definitely feels like they have the upper edge. But again, if you're the Nuggets, kind of similar to Golden State, you got the split in the toughest place to play in the league this year. And now you go back home for two games in one of the, again, with all the altitude, one of the toughest places to play in your own right. Um, and getting the split there. But I do think it is kind of alarming how rough they came out in game two, because OKC's been kind of doing this all year as far as their defense. This type of explosion, I mean, it was historic. 87 first half points. That's never happened before in the play-by-play era in the postseason. But defensively, they've been doing this type of stuff to teams all season long. That's why they won 68 games. So it's going to be important that Denver doesn't just kind of take this game as a like, all right. I think that there's some you know um, point to throwing the tape away because it was just kind of a bad game. But it's also like, all right, now you need to come to play for game three because OKC can do this again.
Yeah, I do think that I don't know about throwing the tape away. I think you probably learned from, what happened, but they do need to come ready to play because like we had already kind of talked about, Denver is just going to be like more tired than this team. They have a shorter rotation. They played more games. They played a tougher series in the first round. So that altitude and home court advantage is going to be negated somewhat by the rest factor and the fatigue. So Denver's going to have to find a way to match that um, if the home court advantage and altitude is negated.
Yeah, I mean, probably the two big bright spots from game two were the fact that, I guess similarly to the Warriors, I think the Nuggets have been playing basically every other day, since their first round, midway through their first round series. They were able to just, rest their guys for the whole fourth quarter since it was already over. So they didn't really have to burn that much on this game. And then the second bright spot would be that Russell Westbrook has continued to play well in the playoffs for Denver. But besides that, I think OKC's done a great job on Jokic and forcing him to be, a scorer, as we saw in game one. I mean, he's going to put up incredible stats. He had the 42, 22, and 6 in game one. But I think it's kind of like we talked about at the beginning of the series, previewing it. It's like, if I think it's better off that Jokic has one of those 40-point games with limited assists than in like a 25-point triple double where everyone else is getting involved. Because you look across the board, Jamal Murray still hasn't been that great in the playoffs besides a couple, standout games. Michael Porter is really struggling in this series. I think that, and those are two key guys. I mean, I don't think that they can win this series if Aaron Gordon is their second best player, even though he has been very huge. I think that they need Jamal Murray, in this series.
Yeah, we talked about it coming in. Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray or MPJ, those guys need to be fighting for top five spots in the series overall players, and so far it's been almost exclusively Thunder players.
Yeah, absolutely. So if this is, probably the most intriguing series now that it heads to Denver, because I mean, like Nick kind of said, we really don't know who has the upper edge so far after two games, but definitely excited. Definitely a lot of fun here in round two. What series has been your favorite here in the second round?
Probably that Boston New York series. It's been unbelievable. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's hard to choose.
yeah, it's hard to choose. It's definitely hard to choose. I'd either go that or the Pacers Cavs series, even though the Cavs are down 0-2. The offensive explosions in that series has been fun to watch, for as um but yeah, lots of fun so far. Of course, we'll have the recaps and the full pots coming out throughout the rest of these playoffs. We do have a couple of quick other news about some awards that were revealed in the last week.
The
We
worst timed Coach of the Year award in history.
Yeah, Kenny Atkinson of the Cavs wins Coach of the Year. Yeah, you're right. Badly timed happens, the day in the middle of losing your two home playoff games in the second round and going down 0-2. But Obviously very well deserved. I mean, we gave it to JB Bickerstaff on our, Running the Paint awards, but Kenny Atkinson was second. And obviously well deserved. I mean, it's been incredible the turnaround that he's had with that team.
I mean, yeah, we had them fourth, fifth, probably third as the highest prediction coming into the year, and took a team that struggled a lot offensively last year to unquestionably the best offensive team for most of the year, if not still in that spot, barring some of these injuries that we've been talking about. Just been able to completely transform their offense and take them to uh, probably the highest potential that they could have. Um, at least, we'll see. It's still not over yet. So,
Yeah, and even then, I mean, yeah, number one seed in the East, second best record in the league, a legit title contender that, at least, coming into these playoffs and a very dominant team. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that the Cavs are just 3 games removed of beating up on the Miami Heat by 60 points. It seems like forever ago that happened, but team's been very very good in the regular season, and even if they do fall in the playoffs, we'll obviously get to that if that does happen. I mean, this team was still very solid, in the playoffs. You could kind of chalk it up to injuries if they do end up falling in this series, and there's no reason that the Cavs couldn't be back, at the top of the conference with Kenny Atkinson's offense and not losing the defense either, next season and for years to come. So shout out to Coach Kenny Atkinson. I'm sure he doesn't really care about that award a lot right now, trying to get back into this series, but overall, third Cavalier coach to win the Coach of the Year award, joining Mike Brown, Joey's favorite, and Bill Fitch as well. So shout out to those guys. Cavalier Coach of the Years. And then Executive of the Year went to Sam Presti of OKC. This one makes a lot of sense with the moves they made in the offseason and having one of the best overall years in NBA history.
yeah, I mean, you took a great team last year and added Hartenstein and Caruso, basically without losing any pieces. And then obviously they had a dominant historic regular season. Don't need to go on about it any longer. It's 1-1 though, so
Yeah, it's just crazy that all three of these top teams are facing adversity. Like it's great. It's unbelievable. They all had one combined win in 6 games so far here in the second round. Absolutely can't wait to see how all those teams fare in the next few games of this series. Nick, you got anything else here before we get out of here?
it's going to look much different in 1 week,
I,
probably.
I I hope it does. I hope we do get the matchups that we have hoped to see throughout the entire season. But hey, it's always good to be playing your best basketball at the right moment, and these lower seeded teams have come in and made this second round very very interesting. So shout out to all those teams. Shout out to you guys for tuning
Yup.
in to the podcast. We just hit the 100 subscriber mark, so shout out to all you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into these videos. It's been so much fun to cover the league over the last couple of seasons, and can't wait to grow and get even bigger and better.
Yes, sir. We're going to keep it coming.
Absolutely. Well, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more NBA postseason content. Thanks again for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the playoffs, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.